Joining me first on the show is our big newsmaker, Dr. P. Thiaga Rajan. He is the Minister of Finance, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Thiaga Rajan, I appreciate your time here. In its letter, the DOPT said that the states are not sponsoring an adequate number of officers for central deputation, and the number of officers is not sufficient to meet the latter's requirement. Hence this move. Then why shouldn't states and centre work jointly for addressing this crisis?
Yeah, first, thank you for having me and thank you for the question. As very often with this union government, we have a problem that needs urgent improvement and fixing. And instead of trying to do the right thing, they go in the wrong direction. There's a more profound problem than whether the union should have the officer or the states. There is a dearth of officers. The complexity of government and the scale of government has expanded exponentially in the last 15, 20 years. If you look at the state of Tamil Nadu, we have less than 300 or so IAS Cadre officers, and then we have some promoted IAS officers. We have hundreds of entities, PSUs, boards, committees, commissions, 38 districts, 55 departments. We have too many positions to fill. So there is a structural and profound problem with the Indian Administrative Service.
Okay.
And that problem cannot be fought or fixed by fighting between ourselves about who's going to get the greater share of existing officers.
Okay, then in that case, what do you actually propose? How will this shortage that the states have be solved while the centre continues to maintain that this is about broadening the perspective? Although in the past, Dr. Thiaga Rajan, we have seen how states have also flouted what was seen as a healthy convention between the states and centre. And I can cite some examples of Tamil Nadu as well.
No, I have examples. I agree that both sides have not played nice all the time. But I'll tell you something more profound, right? I mean, it's like telling you the whole motherhood and apple pie line as the government, as they used to say in the US. Of course, we want them to be versed in both. Of course, that's why they go on deputation and come back. This has been happening for 75 years since independence. It's not like this is the first time anybody woke up and had this genius idea. Let's rotate them through from the union to the state. It happens all the time. We are not saying we don't want that to happen. We are saying leave the rules as they are because you cannot make somebody work where they don't want to work. Under the current modifications proposed by the union government, they can take somebody over to the union even if they don't want to go. How is that? It's a free country, right? How is it conducive for an officer to be forced to go and work at a place they don't want to work? It just makes no sense at all. You have a problem that's crying out for a solution. And rather than do the right solution, they're looking at all these perverse models that would just make it much worse.
Then since you're talking about it's a problem, we have also seen a joint effort in many ways by various non-BJP ruled states. Chief ministers of all non-BJP ruled states have opposed this move. Will we be seeing more of a joint effort in taking on the centre on this particular issue?
Look, I just want to make 3 points, and please bear with me. This should have nothing to do with politics. It's not about which state, whether it's a BJP ruled state or a non-BJP ruled state. This is about states' rights. What shocks me when it comes to the minor ports bill, when it comes to all kinds of centralizations, when it comes to every kind of intrusion into states' rights, which the Honorable Prime Minister was the greatest agitator against when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat for 13 years. How is it different whether the party is the same as the union government or not? This is about states' rights. It should have nothing to do with politics. What we really need is a fundamental A, redefinition of states' rights and lack of intrusion or prevention of intrusion from the union, and B, a profound scaling up of the administrative capabilities of government, including significantly more number of people. We're a country of 1.4 billion people. I haven't done the math yet, but I urge you to do it, and I will do it in the next week. What is the number of IAS officers today compared to 20 years ago, compared to 50 years ago, compared to 75 years ago, even the Indian Civil Service 100 years ago? What was the population and what is the scale of the economy? Do we have enough administrators? The answer is fundamentally no. That needs fixing. Rather than try to kind of, beat each other up about scarce resources, let's expand the resource pool. There's no rule that says you can only take 50 IAS officers a year. Last year, I think Tamil Nadu got an allocation of 3 or 4 new people. How can we run a state this big with only that small a pipeline? We need a lot more people.
So when you say that this is about shortage, you are talking about shortage, so is the center. And caught in this battle are the IAS officers. Isn't that really the case here?
There's nothing to be caught in. Who started the battle? The profound problem is shortage. For example, in Tamil Nadu, I have announced that we will undertake a review of the number of entities to a view for rationalizing and reducing the number of posts. We need hundreds and hundreds of posts for IAS officers. We only have less than 300. That means each one is holding 2, 3, 4 positions. Is this good for outcome for people? It's not. But this was a problem that existed independent. Now what they're trying to do is say that we are going to trample all over states' rights, which is bad enough. The part that's really bad is they say, I can force an officer to come to Delhi if they don't want to come to Delhi. What happens if they have a family and an ailing mother and kids going to school and they want to stay in their state? Why should they be forced to go to Delhi? Right now, the system asks for volunteers. And there are enough volunteers going. Look at the number of officers from Kerala, Tamil Nadu there. The current finance secretary is from Tamil Nadu. The previous IT secretary was from Tamil Nadu. The current Reserve Bank governor who was revenue secretary was from Tamil Nadu. It's not like we are not contributing our fair share. There has to be a fit, right? This is a democracy. You cannot force people to do things they don't want to do. It's not bonded labor.
Okay, you're talking about some structural problems existing in this entire deputation issue that has come up. Dr. Thiaga Rajan, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time here.